Welcome to the online classes by RPS. Today we will be continuing with the same chapter sound, and today is the session 3 of this chapter. In the previous session we have learnt about how humans produce sound. We have also learnt about propagation of sound and how sound travels in a particular medium. We've also done a small activity to demonstrate that sound requires a medium to travel. We've also discussed about the speed of sound in various medium. In today's session, we are going to learn about how do we hear sound. We are also going to learn certain terms related to sound and characteristics of sound. Now, this is a very interesting topic. How do we hear? Once the sound is produced, how do we hear sound? We are able to hear sound from our surroundings through the sensory organ called ear. When the sound propagating through air reaches our ear, we are able to hear. We know that sounds are produced as waves in the air or any other medium. As these sound waves travel to our ears, they convert them into electrical signals or messages that our brain can understand. Our ears have special structure that allows this function. Now, let us study the structure of the human ear and understand how it enables us to hear sound. There are three major parts of ear. The first one is the outer ear or pinna, which is a flap-like structure. It catches the sound waves and forwards them to the next part of the ear, that is the middle ear. Now, talking about the middle ear converts the sound waves into vibrations that then travel to the inner ear. It can do this with the help of the eardrum. The eardrum is a thin, rubber-like sheet present in the middle ear. As the sound waves reach the eardrum, it vibrates and these vibrations propagate to the inner ear. Now talking about the inner ear. The inner ear receives the vibrations sent by the eardrum. It contains a liquid substance and the vibrations that enter the inner ear moves through this liquid. There are tiny hairs present inside the inner ear that turn these vibrations into signals for the brain and pass them to the brain through the auditory nerve. As the brain receives the signal, it interprets the sound. However, this whole process is so quick that we cannot notice it. Now let us talk about the terms related to sound. The first one is the oscillatory motion. When an object travels in a to and fro motion, that is, when an object vibrates, it is said to have an oscillatory motion. Given below are the examples of oscillatory motion. In the first picture, we can see an object suspended through spring results in up and down motion of the spring. And in the second picture, we can see the back and forth motion of a park swing. An oscillation is said to be the movement of the object from one point to another in a periodic time. One oscillation is said to be the movement between the two endpoints or extreme points of the motion of the object. Now, talking about frequency. The number of oscillations an object takes per second is called its frequency. The SI unit of frequency is Hertz. 1 Hertz is equal to 1 oscillation per second. So, 20 Hz is equal to 20 oscillations per second. Talking about time period, the time taken for one complete oscillation of a sound wave is called the time period of the sound wave. The SI unit of time period is second. Now talking about another term related to sound, that is the amplitude. The number of molecules that a sound wave displaces from the mean position creates the amplitude of the sound wave. The amplitude of a sound wave can be defined as the maximum displacement of the particles from their mean position due to the vibrations. The SI unit of amplitude is meter. Now talking about the characteristics of sound. The characteristics of sound are pitch, loudness, quality. The two of the main characteristics of sound are pitch and loudness, which are in turn determined by the frequency and amplitude of the wave respectively. Now talking about the first characteristic of sound, that is pitch or shrillness. Pitch is a subjective measurement. It is the characteristic of sound by which you can distinguish a shrill sound from a grave sound, even though the two sounds have the same loudness. It is the sensation of the frequency of an emitted sound. It depends on the frequency of vibration. Sound with greater frequency is shriller and has higher pitch, whereas sound with lower frequency is less shrill and of lower pitch. Now, here are some examples illustrating pitch or shrillness. Children and women produce high frequency sound so that their sound is shriller or of higher pitch. On the other hand, an adult male produces low frequency sound, so his sound is less shrill or of a lower pitch. A drum produces lower frequency sound, which is less shrill or of lower pitch, while a whistle produces a higher frequency sound, which is shriller or of a higher pitch. The wings of the bee and mosquito vibrate with a higher frequency. Hence, the sound produced by them are shrill and high-pitched. When the skin of the tabla or the strings of the guitar are tightened, they give out a sound of higher pitch than when they are loose. In a flute, sound is produced by the vibrating column of air. The frequency of vibration is altered by closing the holes of a flute, which changes the length of column of vibrating air. Now, talking about the second characteristic of sound, that is the loudness. Loudness of sound is the measure of sound energy reaching the ear per second. Loudness or softness of a sound depends upon its amplitude. Loudness of sound is proportional to the square of the amplitude of the vibration producing the sound. Loudness is directly proportional to the square of the amplitude. That is, if the amplitude becomes twice, the loudness increases by a factor of 4. Loudness of sound is measured in decibel. The following table gives different types of loudness of sound coming from various sources. Now, talking about the last characteristic of sound, that is the quality. It is the characteristic of sound that enables us to distinguish between two sounds of same pitch and loudness produced by two different sources. It depends upon the waveform of the sound. For example, we can recognize our family members by their voice without seeing them because each of them has a voice of different quality. That's all for today's session. In the next session, we're going to learn about the differences between loudness and pitch. We are also going to learn about audible and inaudible sound. We're going to learn the differences between noise and music. We are also going to learn about noise pollution, its causes, effects, and about various ways of preventing noise pollution. Till then, stay home, stay safe, goodbye.